Hello there, duelists, and welcome to Crusadia Deck Profile. Just by the way, I've got loads of videos on the channel, sub and all that. Today, I've got Crusadians on the playmat, and Crusadia were actually requested, making me feel like a real Yu-Gi tuber, albeit a Black Garden variant that I just couldn't quite make stick. So instead, I've cooked up something a bit different. So let's not wait any longer and join the crusade against life points. So we're a fairly monster-heavy deck. First up, we've got Crusadia Draco, and all the Crusadia monsters have got the same effect where they can special summon themselves to a zone a link monster points to, and then they've got effects either when they're special summoned to that zone, or they can target a link monster and do something. Draco's the best, most importantly because it's a dragon and it enables kind of our combos, and it's also got probably the best summon effect, which is you can add a Crusadia monster back from your graveyard to your hand. From there we've got 3 Crusadia Maximus. So Maximus is kind of our going second guy. What he can do is he can target a link monster, no other monsters can attack for the rest of the turn, and he makes that link monster do double battle damage whenever it battles the opponent's monster. From there we're running 3 Crusadia Arboria. So Arboria is whenever a Crusadia monster would be destroyed, we can banish her from the graveyard instead. And then we've got 3 Reclusia. So Reclusia, whenever it's special summoned to a zone link monster points to, you can target a Crusadia card on field, I think it's card, might be the monster, and one card your opponent controls and destroy them both. Which is quite useful. I mean, it doesn't come up that often if I'm being honest. And then finally, Crusadia Leonis, who is clearly the weakest, but I'm just kind of running it for names. So Leonis, you can target a Crusadia link monster and make it do piercing damage for the rest of the turn. From there, we're running a Cyverse kind of engine, which is trimmed down the Dragon engine that I was running. So we're running 3 Formud Skipper. So Formud Skipper can reveal a card in the extra deck and it becomes the name, attribute and type. And also if it's sent to the graveyard as a link material, you can add a Cyverse monster that's level 5 or higher. And said 5 or higher Cyverse monster is Parallel Exceed, which is a truly great card, especially in decks that kind of have link 1 monsters, which makes it super easy to get out. So obviously you can special summon it to zone a link monster points to when a link monster is summoned, and then special summon another one out and they both become level 4. From there, our Dragon engine is 1 Black Dragon Collapserpent and 1 White Dragon Wyverburster. So the Crusadia link monsters, or the link 1 is light, which makes Black Dragon easy to go to, and then the Guard Dragons are all dark, which makes the White Dragon easy to go to, and obviously when they're sent to the graveyard, they search the other one out. And then we're running the Red Ice Darkness Metal Dragon. Mine's actually the older print, so this is now, a truly once per turn effect, which nerfs it a little bit, but it's still well worth running. And then we're running all the bricks, should I say, of the deck. So we're running 1 Gameciel, Sea Turtle Kaiju. So you want to search this out with a field spell, and with the field spell up, you remove 2 Kaiju tokens from your side of the field and negate and banish whatever your opponent does, which is obviously amazing. And then Codebreaker Zero Day. So this has got a bunch of irrelevant effects, and he really wants to stay in deck. But basically the only one that kind of matters, I would imagine, is any link monster that points at it loses 1000 attack. And then finally 1 Dragunity Couse. So this guy can special summon himself when equipped to a monster, and he's for kind of our extra deck combo, which I'll try and show you later. And then 3 Hand Trap, whatever you want. I'm running Effect Veiler. And then a dash through the spells and traps. So we're running 3 Call by the Grave. So Call by the Grave, it's kind of needed really. We're a little bit normal summon reliant, and as much as we can do to protect that effect, especially of the mages, which is pretty crux. And then we're running 3 Kyoutou Waterfront. So this, each time a card is sent to the graveyard, you get a counter, and if you've got 3 or more counters, you can search that Kaiju monster from your deck. We're then running 1 Crusadia Revival, which gives each of our Crusadia link monsters an additional 500 attack, and you can target a link monster you control and it can attack all your opponent's monsters once each. No other monsters can attack when you do that. And from there we've got 1 Terraforming to kind of fish out the other 2 field spells. Mostly it's going to be Waterfront. And then a couple of other cards, so we're running World Legacy Succession, and Dragunity Divine Lance. So obviously that's the kind of Monster Reborn-esque thing, but in this deck it's actually searchable. And then Dragunity Divine Lance, you can equip to a Dragunity monster and then equip that monster with a tuner from the deck, which in this case is Couse. And then finally, we're running one Crusadia Krawler as our only trap, which is searchable. When it's special, so it special summons itself as a monster, and then when it's special summoned to a zone a link monster points to, you can add a World Legacy card, so Krawler can then add the Succession. And then rounding out the profile bit of this video, so we've got 2 Crusadia Magus. So Magus, when a monster is special summoned to the zone, to its zone, you can search a Crusadia monster from your deck, which is obviously super useful. They're running kind of like the Cyburst bit, so we're running 1 Linkuriboh and 1 Linguriboh. So Linguriboh is obviously just a level 1, can negate an attack, or well, so not negate an attack, it can contribute itself to reduce the attack of a monster to 0, and then special summon itself back with a level 1. Most of that stuff doesn't really come up, and Linkuriboh is a level 4 or lower Cyburst monster, and it can contribute itself to negate a trap. It can also special summon itself back with like Ignister stuff, but again, most of it is just because of their summoning requirements. And then we've got 1 LP and 1 Pisty, so obviously these two work in a very similar way. If you know there's a zone that 2 link monsters point to, then you can summon from the deck or hand for LP, or banish or graveyard from Pisty. And then our Link 2, so Regulux, works in a very similar way to Magus, apart from if a monster is summoned to his zone, you get to search a Crusadia spell or trap. And Sparta is a bit unusual. When you special summon to her zone, you can move a monster in the main monster zone. And then a couple of other Link 2s to kind of raise our power ceiling. So we've got Dragunity like Romulus and Codebreaker Virus Swordsman. So Romulus, when it's special summoned, you can add a Dragon Ravine, which we're not running, or Dragunity Divine Lance, which we are running. And then Codebreaker Virus Swordsman, if it's special summoned when it's co-linked, you can special summon 1 Codebreaker Zero Day from your hand, deck or graveyard. It's got some other relevant effects as well, but they never really come up. So from there we're running 2 Crusadia Equimax. You could probably cut this to 1, but I think it's worth having the second one. So all the Crusadia link monsters gain attack based on the monster that they point at, and the monster that they point at can't attack. Equimax can also tribute off a Crusadia monster he points to target 1 card on your opponent's side of the field and negate it. So it works in a very similar way to Red Hot Dragon Archfiend Abyss, and that you can negate spells and traps and stuff like that. And then finally for our only other Link 3 is Codebreaker Virus Berserker. So this requires 2 monsters including a Codebreaker monster, and when it's special summoned while it's co-linked, you can special summon 2 Codebreaker monsters from the graveyard. So you special summon the Swordsman, that summons the Zero Day, then you can summon the Berserker with those 2 cards and then special summon both of those cards back, assuming you have the link markers for it. And then 1 Seryu's Skull Dread, which helps us, you know, keep the bad cards in the in the deck, you know, like, you know, Codebreaker and the Dragunity stuff and stuff like that. And then finally Appaloosa for the, you know, for the finish. Okay, so we're in zoomed out mode, and we're doing another combo. We've not done a combo in a while, so I just kind of wanted to show you what Formud Skipper and Crusadia Arboria can kind of, well, any Crusadia monster besides Draco can kind of put out. So let's get going. So kind of built this to avoid kind of like the Formud Skipper activate effect veil at end. So we're going to summon Formud Skipper, link it off straight away, get him to the graveyard. Well, the graveyard can be a bit bleh. Summon Linkuriboh, activate Formud Skipper's effect, which will give us Parallel Exceed. From there we're going to burn the Crusadia special summon. We're going to then link those 2 off for Crusadia Regulux. Parallel Exceed is going to activate special summon in itself, and that's going to trigger Regulux. So we'll special summon another Parallel Exceed and add ourselves Crusadia Krawler. From there we can use Regulux, get rid of it, to go for Magus, because Magus just requires anything but himself as a Crusadia monster. We can then link up Parallel Exceed, which is level 4 because of its effect, into Linkuriboh. That's going to activate Magus and add us a Crusadia Draco, which is obviously super important for the combo. We're going to link those 2 off to go for Sparta. Sparta We're then going to special summon the Draco and add ourselves back the Crusadia Arboria that we sent to the graveyard before. Again, it's already burnt its special summon effect, which is kind of a bit different from the kind of normal Crusadia combo, but I still think it's worth the add. From there, we're going to get rid of the Draco to go for the LP. That's going to activate Sparta's effect, allow it to move it. We're then going to activate LP's effect, special summon the Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Darkness Metal Dragon's effect is going to special summon the Draco, and then we can go into our Saryuja. So, Saryuja in for 4, which is nice because it means that we can shuffle back in a bunch of bricks if we've drawn them. So that's going to net us a card, which we're not going to use, but obviously, you know, if you can shuffle back in an Arboria or anything like that to get a different Crusader, that's obviously great. From there, we're going to get rid of the Draco, summon the Pisty. Pisty's going to special summon the Draco back from the graveyard, and then we're going to link them both off into a Romulus. So Romulus is going to add us the Dragunity Divine Lance. So we're going to equip the Lance to the Romulus, and then activate the Lance's effect to equip the Couse, and then special in the Couse. This could be a Phalanx if you were desperate for it, but I don't think it's that it doesn't really matter that much. Link those both off into Codebreaker Virus Swordsman. So because Virus Swordsman is code linked, it can special summon 0 Day to a zone a link monster points to. We can then link off the 0 Day and the Swordsman to go for Virus Berserker. Virus Berserker, because it's special summoned and co-link, can special summon 2 Codebreaker Virus monsters from the graveyard, or Codebreaker monsters from the graveyard, and you can see how just that Draco and Pisty play became essentially 6 link ratings. So we're going to link off all of those 3 into an Appaloosa, probably put it under where the Equimax is going to point to. From there we can use Saryuja's effect, special summon the Arboria, and then link those 2 off for Equimax. From there we can set the Crusadia Krawler, and on your opponent's turn you can special summon it, and then that will search you a World Legacy Session for next turn. So you can see how we've got 1, 2, 3, plus the Appaloosa's got an extra 300 because of the Saryuja, so it's a 2/7 monster, so it's quite hard to get over. The Crusadia Equimax has got the negate and has also got an additional 3,000 attack points, so you know it's a 5,000 monster that they've got to chunk over. So you've got 1 Omni negate, 3 monster negates, and you've kind of recurred all of your resource that you've lost. So to conclude, Crusaders are an interesting one for me. I used to really like them, but I feel like the combos are a bit one note. For how relevant they are, the best boards are almost impossible to crack, but they can be a little susceptible to the kind of hand trap, normal summon hand trap, and getting through 2 hand traps is going to be very tricky. So I'm going to give a 3 for relevance. The ceiling is super high, but in terms of consistency it's probably a bit lower than that. For the fun factor, I think the combos once learnt are pretty linear, and you'll struggle to find new things to do with them. And I think the addition of kind of the Guard Dragon kind of engine aspect of it has definitely made that apparent. I think it's a very good deck for new players though, but for me it's sadly a 2. Cost-wise, the deck obviously bumps way up in kind of standard. This deck comes in at $95, which is very cheap considering how powerful the end boards can be. So what do you think? Am I being harsh on these Crusaders? Thanks for watching, and check out the channel for other profiles.